Raider Nation, what is the deal, man? Once again, it's your guy Panama Fargo, and I'm back to y'all live with another episode of the Raider Rundown. And today, man, we're gonna be going over my dream off-season plan for the Las Vegas Raiders, man. Some moves that I would hope that they make, and we're gonna detail them. And if they make these moves, I think they're gonna be a much, much better team in 2024. So without further ado, man, let's go ahead, let's get this intro started, and let's get the show cracking. What is the deal? Once again, you're back for another episode of the Raider Rundown. Make sure you guys are tapping on the like and on the subscribe button. And please, hit on that little notification bell so you get updated whenever I drop episodes. You get updates like this right here. But like I was saying, man, we're going to go over my dream off-season plan, right? And I'm not adding the draft yet, okay? We're going to go before the draft. So this is my dream off-season plan before the draft. I might have to put that in the title. But on what the Raiders should do, okay, as far as the moves they can make in the offseason. Now, we're going to start with our own team, and then we're going to move over to the free agent signings, okay? So, number one, for our own team, I think to start off, I think we all know that we got to get certain players off the books, and certain players are post-June 1st cut, right? After that, you get money. You get more money for releasing these players, at least, right? So the number one thing that the Raiders got to do is, number one, they have to find a way to get Jimmy Garoppolo off of the contract. They got to get Jimmy Garoppolo off the books. Now, I know some people think that we'd be able to trade Jimmy. It's not happening, right? Let me spit some numbers to you. If the Raiders release Garoppolo, all right, he's going to have a $28.3 million dead money hit. All right, it's gonna be hard for anybody to trade for that. You trade for a contract with a $28.3 million dead money hit, right? Like that's a lot. So if he is a post June 1st cut, like we was talking about, right? Then only $15.5 million in dead money would hit the Raiders in 24, and then only 12.8 in 2025 would hit the dead money cap. So in 2025, obviously, right? So you're looking at that, you break it up. If he's a post June 1st cut, which I assume is going to happen, and we all assume that, the whole quarterback room is getting revamped. Brian Hoyer probably is not staying. That was his last year. So Aiden O'Connell is the only quarterback that's under contract at the moment. Okay, cool. Now, you go off of that. Next move that I think the Raiders should do, move Hunter Renfrow. Okay, that's the next move. He was a fan favorite. Most of us love him. He hasn't done anything to sour me from him at the end of the day. It's just the fact that we have Trey Tucker. We have a lot of talent on this team, and that's a lot of money that he's making for not a lot of production, right? So from there, I think the Raiders would be smart to move him. Now, where do you move him to? I see New Orleans. Somebody in my comments said Jacksonville, with the Jaguars. I can see him there. New Orleans is probably the most likely spot. Anybody that needs a receiver, come one, come all, right? Like, he's there to the highest bidder. But again, we got to throw the facts. We got to throw the numbers out at you, right? So he signed a 2-year extension, I believe, that was worth somewhere around 30-something mil. 21 mil of that was guaranteed for him. So at the end of the day, if you're looking at his dead money cap hit, right, even if you were to cut him, his cap hit before a June 1st cut is 13 mil, right? 13 mil for the Raiders, which is a lot. And excuse me, let me see. These are the actual numbers. So he signed a 2-year contract extension worth $31.7 million. And then he received $21 million of that guaranteed in the salary, of which $14.5 million is fully guaranteed. So if on the roster on the third day of the 2023 league year, Renfro will have his salary for 2023 fully guaranteed. Okay, so he pretty much got a chunk of his bread, right? He pretty much got a chunk of his bread, and we all pretty much assume that he's not going to be here. So trading Hunter Renfro will be the second move. Now, okay, with those moves right here, a couple other ones as well that I'm probably going to have to do some numbers on. Per Vinny Bonsignore, the Raiders are going to have around $50 million in cap space going into free agency. Okay, cool. All right, now you look at what they did before free agency hit. You traded, not even before free agency hit, or just in general, right? You get rid of Hunter Renfro. Jimmy Garoppolo is gone as well. You make that room, you make that money. Okay, cool. Now, we go into who the Raiders should re-sign from their own team. Now, our list is extensive, but there's only a couple names to me that I think the Raiders should bring back. One, I think Jermaine Illuminor should come back. Good cause, right? I think you get him on a 1-year deal, a cheap deal, maybe get him for $1.5 million, something like that. But I think he played well enough where you could re-sign him for a 1-year deal. I think it's good value. I think he played good enough for me to be confident in that type of money and that type of length, right? So me personally, I'm re-signing Jermaine Illuminor, keeping that right side intact how we should. Next, I think the Raiders are going and should re-sign Adam Butler. Okay, DT, keep that depth. He had a very, very good year. I think we can build upon that good year. So I think he'll be a guy that, we can go ahead and bring back, and he's a great depth piece. Great depth piece for the Raiders. Same thing, I believe, with Amik Robertson. Okay, I'd re-sign Amik Robertson as well. Maybe somewhere 2-year, 1-year deal, something like that. And notice, all these guys that I've said re-sign, it's not a lot of money, right? That is not a lot of money between those three guys. You're talking about Jermaine Illuminor, Adam Butler. They at least, for Jermaine and Adam Butler, at maximum, they're getting a 2-year deal. At maximum, okay? And then you talk about Amik Robertson. He's young, so they might want to lock him up for longer. But the amount of money is still not going to be a lot because he's not going to command Jalen Ramsey money. He's not going to command, Jalen Johnson money and all these other things, right? So we're still free. We still free. So re-sign those three players. Now here's where it gets dicey. Okay. I was going back and forth. Do I re-sign Bilal Nichols? Okay, I'm going back and forth. I don't know if I want to do it. I think, honestly, I let him walk at the initial free agency period, right? Keep in mind, initial. Now, you have the chance to negotiate with your own guys and all that. I think I will let him walk for the initial period, let him test out his market, right? And if nothing comes his way and if the price tag is good, I bring him back for depth. Now, I'll tell you why in a minute. I'm so hesitant on that. And I believe if the Raiders were to get this guy, that's why the price has to match and work. But I'd let him go ahead and test his market, see what he is. Now, another dicey one, Josh Jacobs, right? Does he return? To me, he's already worked himself out of a long-term deal. Okay, so from there, do you franchise tag him again? I was going back and forth because it's dicey. The franchise tag is actually a lot of money, right? That's the whole thing. The franchise tag, if you really think about it and work out the details, bro, it's a lot of bread that Josh Jacobs will be getting. A lot of bread that's going to count over the cap. Low key, it's cheaper to give him a long-term deal. It is. It's cheaper to give him a long-term deal. What does that look like? Now, like I just said, though, he's fucked himself out of any leverage, right? There's no leverage, really. If the Raiders wanted to play hardball, it's going to be played. So my thing is like, okay, what's fair to him? What's fair to Josh? Because we know we're going to utilize him. And what's fair for the Raiders organization to sign some of these players. So, honestly, I think dream offseason scenario, they get Josh Jacobs back, long-term, but at a reduced rate. Okay, so we maybe get him back for 2-3 years, but the money isn't astronomical. The money isn't crazy, right? Because why? These players that I'm about to bring up are why I'm going – trying to find cheaper options for the Raiders to re-sign their own players as well, right? So these are the players from the Raiders that I would re-sign as well. Also bringing back Isaiah Palomar. I think Isaiah Palomar is the guy that you should bring back as well. That's another one. So I'm bringing him back. And surprise for everybody, Jakob Johnson. Jakob Johnson will be back after watching AP and media days and media row for all the Super Bowl. You can tell he still want to play that physical football. And a fullback is needed. And I like Jakob. I do. Jakob go in there and smack some shit. I do like it. So Jakob is probably back. So all those players, I'm bringing back there. Like I said, being realistic, probably you're looking at around maybe 41, 39 million after all them signings. This is like being realistic, right? 41 to 39 million dollars left in free agency after all those signings. So now what do you do after that, right? Now we attack the offseason in free agency with a plan. Holes are filled, right? Not all the holes we have, but pretty much we don't have more question marks than we're going into it. So next thing, notice I didn't say a certain name. We're going into free agency now. Now we talk about players that the Raiders can acquire. We've signed who we wanted to re-sign from our teams. Now who else can we get on the open market? Notice I did not name a certain name, and that is Andre James. Why? I let Andre James walk because I'm moving Dylan Parham to center. That's another one of my offseason moves. I will be moving Dylan Parham to center. He goes to center. Boom. Now you go into free agency looking for a big fish at guard, right? Now, I'm not saying I understand that free agency, you're not going to be able to fill every single hole in need, right? You're not. But I believe with the money that the Raiders are having and the Raiders can have, they're able to get at least two big fish in this free agency period, right? I think they'll be able to sign at least two big fish with the money that they have. So who would those fish be, right? Now, number one, I talked about them all off season, and y'all should already know where I'm going. My first signing would be Justin Madubuike from the Ravens. Right now, I know everybody, Chris Jones. Chris Jones just expressed his love and affection for Kansas City all over the stage today. Oh, and prayers up to Kansas City as well, right? The shooting that was out there, sick-ass world, you know what I mean? We can't even go out and enjoy the little things anymore. But at the end of the day, man, I hope everybody over there is okay. You know, prayers up, blessings to everybody. You know, I know somebody did lose their life. So, you know, rest in power to that person as well. So at the end of the day, want to make sure I express, you know, my deepest condolences for everybody involved in that situation, man. I hope everything goes well moving forward. But you know, getting back on that, he expressed his love for Kansas City all over the stage. It sickened me, right? It fucking sickened me. So I don't want him anywhere near here. I don't. He's not coming here, right? He's gonna go back. They talking about a 3-peat. Cool. And guess what? I want Kansas City at their full strength. I want them at their full strength. That's what I want. So he's going back. Next best option, and I don't even make him sound like a consolation prize. He's not. You get Justin Madubuike, right? You get him. Spotrac is listing him somewhere like $22 million cap hit range average on what he could be getting per year, something like that, right? Somewhere like a 4-year, $60 million deal I'm looking at for him if the Raiders were to sign him. Something like that. 4 years, $60 million, $60 to $80 million deal. But I'm keeping it in the 60 ranges, okay? Just for the money factor. But at the end of the day, $22 million per year, something like that. Cap hit at like 20-something million. Now, but what I say, the Raiders were left with about like 39 cap space, right? So now you get him. We left with about 17 mil left, right? We left with about 17 mil left. And that shit right there, right? If my math is correct. But I think with him, with Justin Madubuike, that's the big fish, right? That's big fish right there. You get him on this D-line, it's over. It's over. Pressure up the ass, bro. Pressure up the ass. And Patrick Mahomes will not be comfortable. Justin Herbert won't be comfortable. Whoever Denver gets won't be comfortable. Because if you bring a guy like Justin Madubuike in here, all he has to do is push the pocket a little bit. A little bit. We don't need a lot, right? We don't need 10 sacks from the defensive tackle position. We don't. It's just being honest, right? We don't. But we can get that pressure. And remember, we talked to Marcus Johnson, where Max Crosby and Malcolm Coons almost accounted for damn near 200 pressures in a full simulated season. Can we add a premier interior rusher to that? What does that add to the 200 pressures? 250? 270? If it's 270, you can imagine how many sacks we're probably getting with 270 pressures between three people, right? I'm just imagining. So that's my number one big fish right there, right? That's my number one big fish. So get him right there. Next, I look at the guard position. And a name that intrigues me is Kevin Dotson from the Los Angeles Rams. Now, Kevin Zeitler, I believe he's out there too, but he is a little on the older side. Now, with Kevin Dotson, he's in his 20s. We'd be able to get him for years upon years upon years. And if you can lock up a guard in their 20s, he's not that old. You pretty much locking him up for a nice little 5 to 8 years if you can get great production out of that guard, right? So I believe he's sitting there like 27, 26 years old right now. Woo! That's a lot of great production that you can get for years upon years to come, right? Like his best football is ahead of him. Same with Justin Madubuike. He's about 25, 26. Best football is ahead of him. Young, right? We're young. We're getting young. But at the same time, we're getting guys that are experienced, right? Justin Madubuike, I think he's been in the league for like 4 years. Kevin Dotson been in the league for like 4 or 5 years, something like that already, but they're still young, right? So we'd be able to get these guys right here. Now, with Dotson, you're going to have to, whoever's making that contract is going to have to finagle that. Because if what I'm saying is fact, and we sitting at like $17, $18 million left, some shit like that, he's going to command a pretty penny. Now, on Spotrac, I believe he's somewhere around the $14 to $16 million range, something like that. So you're going to have to finagle it, right? You're going to have to finagle it. How many years are you getting them for? How many, whatever you're getting them for. So what I say, we have 14, that leaves it with like $4 million left, right? $4 million left in the cap space. Now, obviously, there's some restructures. I'm probably not saying there's some, movement that the Raiders are going to do that I'm probably not even thinking about to get a little more money, a little more bread. But I think that those two big fish right there with who you re-sign gets you going in the right direction. Now, with the $4 or $5 million left, you got left and whatever finaglings they do after they sign those two big dudes is up to be desired. But that's now where you can look at a guy like Bilal Nichols. We circle back, right? It all goes circle back. We look at a guy like Bilal Nichols. Does he have a market? If he doesn't have a market and he's not going anywhere, right? We look at him and we say, well, come on now. We need more. We need to keep adding to that depth, right? We keep adding to that depth. So now you maybe bring Bilal Nichols back if he doesn't have a market. But your D tackle room right now is still looking good. The defensive line room is still looking good. You add Justin Madubuike in there. You keep Adam Butler. Okay, whatever we still are lacking in that room and in the team in general, we go to the draft for, right? That's what we go to the draft for. So I think all those moves right there will have the Raiders in prime position, right? Prime position. Now, if we really look, right, what holes do the Raiders still have left after all these signings, after everything I said? Corner's still a question mark for this team. But how would Jacorian Bennett, how will he go ahead and upgrade, right? How will he get better? You don't want to sign somebody like Snead and just give up on Jacorian Bennett's development. That's not what I think this coaching staff is going to do. So we'll see. And if it's up to me, I'd rather sign a premier defensive lineman than a premier corner. I feel like a defensive lineman will impact the game more, right? So I think getting Madubuike is better, but we still got a corner issue that we got to talk about. Now, we signed Kevin Dotson in this dream scenario, right? So now you got to address the other guard position as well. But I've said this all along, this draft is full of interior linemen, right? So you'll be able to grab yourself an interior lineman in this draft, slot him over there to that other guard position, okay? Now your O-line is looking straight, okay? When you got Colton Miller there, whatever the guard that you draft in the draft for that left guard position. We moved Dylan Parham to center. Right now, you got Kevin Dotson on that right side, Jermaine Illuminor on that left. Now we're looking a little better. All right, Josh Jacobs is back. Obviously, now with the quarterback position, we still only have Aiden O'Connell under center. I think another thing that the Raiders are going to do is bring in a guy like Jacoby Brissett, bringing somebody like that. Why? Because my dream scenario is going to be a rookie quarterback, Aiden O'Connell, and a veteran. And that's your quarterback room, and you let them all battle it out fairly, right? That's what I think it should be. So maybe Jacoby Brissett, maybe a guy like Gardner Minshew, somebody like that, where the price tag ain't high, you get him real cheap, right? And then we go ahead and we stay on the move. So that's what I think the Raiders are going to do. Now, I didn't add no draft in there, no none of that. This is off-season stuff. So, yes, there's still just quite a bit of holes, but I think if you sign two of those big fish right there, those are two names that'll elevate the Raiders roster right now, because I really don't think the Raiders need a lot. Now, I always talk about Divine Diablo, but getting a linebacker right now is not a necessity. It's an upgrade, yeah, but it's not a necessity, right? We're looking at necessities. Now, the guard, the D tackle, those are necessities, okay? And then, like I said, whatever we don't pick up, we pick up in the draft. But y'all let me know down below, man, how do you feel about the all-season plan? What would you alter? What would you change, right? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Y'all let me know down below, man. Let's go ahead and let's get it. Let's talk about it. And remember, man, we got Turf and Rundown tomorrow, 10:30 Eastern. Make sure you guys pull up. We got a lot of things. We're going to be talking about the same things we were talking about here kind of a little bit. But we got some twists to it tomorrow as well. So make sure you guys tune in for that. And y'all know I keep it authentic from the clouds to the ground on the Raider Rundown.
I need a bad bitch with an accent, serving in peace, still taxing. Just got tapped for the young Cash App, moonwalking like a young Mike Jackson. Yeah, shots to the head, ride clean and still fuck feds. Realest nigga and it's on my kids, so who the fuck gon' wanna test me, bitch?